So today I thought it'd be a good idea to do some budgeting with you so that you know how I'm budgeting my money to, be pretty transparent. I mean, I'm just going to go into percentages rather than kind of like specific amounts, but let me know how you guys budget, whether you budget in the same way, whether you've got similar percentages, or whether you're different. And if they are different, that's obviously absolutely fine because we're all in different financial positions, but let's jump straight in. So obviously, I try to save as much as I possibly can. And I did make a video on this kind of last year, but my circumstances have kind of changed a little bit. So I thought I would update and review my budget because I think it's important to do when your circumstances change and when things happen. It's important to kind of bring your circumstances and budgeting up to date so that you know that you're on track for whatever your goals might be. So as I'm going to try and retire fairly early, I want to see if I can retire by like 45 or 50 or something like that. So quite a lot of what I'm doing is very kind of based heavily around saving money rather than spending it now. That's not to say that I'm not saving for or spending money at the moment and not spending, like to live my life, because at the end of the day, I don't want to live a boring life like Harry Potter under the stairs in a little cupboard doing nothing but being a muggle. But yeah, anyway, so let's jump in. So you'll notice on here that about 22% of my income is going onto my housing. I mean, that's a decent chunk, but not too bad. I mean, I've tried to reduce that as much as possible by going into a house share, which I've not yet moved to, but I will be soon. So if there is like, I don't know, a bit of a difference in the quality of videos, then that's why. So I've tried to reduce that as much as possible because I did look at kind of getting a house to myself or like renting a apartment to myself, but that would have been almost, well, probably double the cost. So it would have been about 44, nearly half of my monthly income. So to me, it was just worth it to kind of reduce the housing as much as possible, because as much as it is a kind of a base and a nice place to kind of be, ultimately that is going to be a big portion of whatever you spend each month. So I've tried to reduce that as much as possible. And then my monthly spending is about 17%. So this is things such as food, such as kind of nights out, eating, whatever else. So 17% of my monthly income goes on spending, on consumption, on whatever else. So I think that's a decent proportion. I'm not a very materialistic person, as you may or may not know. I don't like kind of designer stuff. I don't really enjoy, having the next best iPhone or best thing. I don't really care about that. I'd much rather kind of have experiences rather than materialistic things. So a lot of the savings and stuff that I'm doing are going towards those longer term goals of being able to experience more things. That brings us on to transport. So transport is an essential part of kind of spending and a part of budgeting. I've put 3% in there, but the reality is that it will probably flex and it won't necessarily be 3% of my kind of monthly expenses. This is done on a monthly basis, by the way, because sometimes will go on like a weekend away to different places, in which case the transport costs will probably increase. But I think if and when they do increase, then it will come out of the kind of monthly spending side of things. So the monthly spending may kind of increase to account for increased transport on certain weekends and stuff. But 3% is a kind of a given average for spend, and that'll be including my rail card as well, which, by the way, I know is a kind of a tangent. If you're in the UK and you've not got a rail card, then you definitely should, because if you're someone who uses train travel, then it saves you a third of your train travel expenses. And to be honest, if you make even like 2 or 3 train journeys, the likelihood is that you're going to save the amount that it costs for a rail card, because a rail card's only like £30 for a year, and if you make a couple of train journeys in that year, then it makes it worthwhile, in my opinion. So that's also a good little way to reduce your transport expenditure a bit more. Other savings. So this is kind of everything else which is not kind of put within the savings categories which I've mentioned on here. So what I'm trying to do is put a little bit aside towards the other kind of savings goals that I have. So having it in kind of liquid cash. So this goes towards kind of birthdays, towards holidays, towards whatever else is coming up. I guess it's almost like a bit of an emergency fund, but that's kind of separate. So this is kind of savings which I'm putting for specific purposes. So I've kind of got a account with Starling set up, which is kind of set up into different spaces because that's quite a useful feature. You can have the money apportioned for certain purposes, and that's what I've tried to do with this. So 6% is going towards that each month, so that I've got my year kind of planned out in terms of those expenses. 6% is also on speculative assets. So this is kind of saving / spending. So this is going to be things like kind of cryptocurrencies, for example, or it could be things such as investing in new up and coming companies on Crowdcube, which I did a video on somewhere up there, which was quite good, if I say so myself. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, 6% goes towards something like that. I don't want to put like a huge amount towards that because obviously the risk is a lot higher with these kind of speculative assets. They don't have any real form of security, and I guess it's something just to have a bit of fun with, in the hopes that, you know, it will go up and I make some wise choices, but who knows what will happen with that. And then we come to the two kind of largest proportions of my kind of monthly budgeting. 23% of my income, it goes into my SIPP at the moment. So this is my pension towards retirement. So this is the self-invested personal pension, which I think is a very, very decent amount to be going towards that, because it offers you a lot of different tax benefits and tax efficiencies. So, and because it's especially kind of saving for the long term, I'm not going to be using that for like 30 years, 35 years, then I think it's a good way to kind of spend to kind of put my money, and that's invested in various different funds, which maybe I'll share at one point. I think I might have done it already, I'm not too sure, but 23% of my income, so that's almost a quarter, goes into the SIPP, which is very, very good. And then finally, we have the stocks and shares ISA. So this is another 23% of my income, which goes into the stocks and shares ISA. So this is within the Vanguard account and is in Vanguard Life Strategy funds, because this is hopefully going to be working towards my plan for early retirement. Because with the stocks and shares ISA, I can take anything out at any point. So I'm hoping that when I do decide that the time is right to retire, that I will be able to live on the kind of stocks and shares ISA side of things up until the point where I can get my self-invested personal pension and any other pensions which might arise further down the line. So that's kind of the plan, and I'm trying to contribute to that as much as possible for the time being, just so I can take advantage of compound interest over the long term. I am aware that the SIPP probably offers better long-term tax advantages, because the benefits are better, and like it's more efficient to put your money within a SIPP, as I've seen proven by several other YouTube videos. There's a good one up here somewhere, which I'll leave, by Meaningful Money, which explains it nice and clearly and gives you some really good examples. But with the SIPP, obviously, so 23% of my income goes towards that, but then on top of that, an extra 20% goes on as a kind of tax relief, so that, I guess, in theory, adds a little bit more to that than directly comes out of my pocket, if that makes sense. But 23% of my income goes into my SIPP. So that's kind of it for the most part, and admittedly things may change further down the line, but this is my kind of budgeting outline plan for now, for 2022, and at 25 years old. I mean, I'm sure, you know, as I said, maybe in a year, maybe in a few months, things might change and it might need to be reviewed and updated, and that's okay. But I thought this exercise might be cool to share with you lot and to see how it kind of compares with you. I think that I'm doing quite well and I'm in a decent position, but we'll see how the next few years pans out. And like and subscribe and all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next video.